go live. People have to come out anyway. Okay. Okay, we're good to go. It's pretty well known that during the weeks before Rosh Hashanah, people send Rosh Hashanah cards, greeting cards. It's not a new invention. In fact, lately it's kind of fallen out of style. Now people send WhatsApps and Facebook messages and text messages. And the obvious question is, where does this come from? Is it a Jewish tradition? Is it a knockoff of some other religious tradition? Did Hallmark cards find a good way to make money off the Jewish community? Is there really something called Rosh Hashanah greeting cards? This is a Jewish idea. So if you look in the Gemara, you will find no mention of it. There's no mention of anything like that in the Gemara. If you look in the Medrash, you'll find no mention of it. If you look in the writings of the Gaonim and the early Rishonim, no mention. It's nothing like that. Here is the first formal source for the notion of extending good wishes in writing before Rosh Hashanah. This takes us back now to somewhere in the late 13th century, maybe early 14th century. Rabbeinu Shalom of Neustadt, the Rebbe of the Maharil, Rabbi Yaakov of Molin, who is really the forerunner of Minhagei Ashkenaz, is quoted in the Sefer Maharil, in the book of Rabbi Yaakov Segal, Rabbi Yaakov of Molin. He says, and I quote, Omar Maharash, Maharash is Rabbeinu Shalom, his Rebbe, Mishenichnas Elul, from when Elul enters, Kishekosev Odom Igeres Shalom, when a person writes a letter of friendship, Lechavero, to their peer or companion, Tzorich Lerameis Bahaschaloso, he has to allude, hint, in the beginning of the letter, Shemevakesh Alav, that he is asking on his behalf, Lahoshivo, to restore him, Letov Hashana Ha'asid Lavo, to the goodness of a new year to come. There are apparently different versions of exactly how this is supposed to be written. There's another manuscript that suggests that it doesn't say Lahashivo Letov Hashana, but instead that it says, where is that? Ligzar Hayamim Habayim Letova. There's another version of this manuscript that says that there should be good decrees, or it should be decreed for goodness in the coming days. Al derech b'shana tova tichatev v'techatem. This is along the lines of the notion that God writes and seals us for a good year. So since God writes and seals us proverbially in a book of life, so we in turn should write that we're thinking of you and we're praying for you, that you should be written into that good book. Or Tola Eretz al Blima, he who keeps the universe in suspense, not as in surprise, but keeps everything going. Yetiv lecha kativa v'chatima. He should make good for you. He should better for you your inscription and your final seal. Uchahai gavna, and things like this. In the Minhagei Maharil, it finishes v'chein nohag mahari segal. This is what Rabbi Yaakov Molin did as well. The balance of the paragraph is about being careful about using the word shalom in a letter, because that's really the name of God. And he quotes the Tashbetz, who was a disciple of Maharam Rottenberg, who says that Shalom is the name of God, so be careful. If you write the name of God in a letter, you don't want to misspell it. You don't want to spell it fully because otherwise it becomes sacred and then it can't be discarded. All right. So let's just carefully download what we just read. The first thing that I notice is that this is Misha Nichnas Elul. Very unusual expression. The more common expression is Baruch Shulchan Aruch is Misha Nichnas Av. Av comes, we minimize, enjoy. Misha Nichnas Adar, Marbim B'Simcha. Here it's Misha Nichnas Elul. When Elul arrives, at the entrance of Elul, he doesn't say you should send holiday cards. He doesn't say that you should send letters to people. He says, Kisha Kotev Adam Migerat Shalom. When a person is writing a letter in which they're expressing friendship. He doesn't say to write a letter. He says Kisha Kotev, when you're writing. When you're writing, he says Tzarech Lirmos. He should hint to him. He should say, I've been thinking. I've been praying. Maybe not just about myself. Maybe I'm thinking about you. I don't know what it means to hint to him. I don't know how you say this in a hint. He doesn't say to write it. He doesn't say to wish him well. He doesn't say to give him blessings. He says you should allude, you should hint in the beginning of the letter that he's davening for him. I've been praying for you. And this is along the lines of that God should turn you for a good year, along the lines of being written and inscribed and sealed. And he gives a number of ways of writing this. And he says that's what Rabbi Yaakov Mullen used to do. Now this is 14th century. And Reb Shalom's tradition predates that back to maybe even as early as the 13th century. It's quite a while back. But it doesn't say anything about cards. In fact, it doesn't even say about writing letters. It says that if you're writing a letter, you should allude or hint to the fact. So, I guess I could ask you 3 questions. Number 1, if it's important to write to somebody that you're praying for them, why wouldn't he just say? When Rosh Hashanah Elul comes, you should write letters to everybody, telling them you're praying for them. That's question number 1. Question number 2, if you have to pray for everybody, why doesn't he just say pray for everybody? Why do I have to tell people I'm praying for them? Why is that part of it? And nowhere in the Minhagim does it say, when you pray for yourself, make sure to pray other people have a good year too. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say you have to pray for others. It says when you're writing a letter of friendship, allude to the fact, hint to the fact, which is my 3rd question. What's the big secret? Why are we hinting? Don't tell anybody. I have something important to tell you. I don't want to tell it to you. I've been thinking about you. In fact, I'm even praying for you. I don't have to comfortable just telling it to you overtly. And he doesn't just say it's a good idea. He says, tzorich, you have to do this. You have to allude to the fact that you're thinking and praying for people. Now, it's possible the word tzorich doesn't mean it's actually a din or a halachic obligation. It's possible. Because it doesn't say v'chein osa mahari, it doesn't say that's what Mahari Segal did. It says v'chein nohag. The word nohag is like the word minhag, it's like a custom. All right, so I don't know if tzarech means you must, it's a law, or tzarech means maybe it's appropriate, this is what you should be doing. I don't understand it. I don't understand why, if you're supposed to be writing letters like this, there should be a halacha that says write letters. But there isn't such an halacha. So it's only if you're writing a letter anyway. Oh, by the way, if you're writing a letter, then you should allude to the fact that you're praying. But there's no halacha, you should actually pray for anybody else. And the really fascinating thing is that this little paragraph here does not show up in the Shulchan Aruch. Not of Rabbi Yosef Karo. It does not show up in the glosses of the Shulchan Aruch of Rabbeinu Mosa Isserlish or Ramah. The commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch do not mention this. Not the Taz Magen David and not the Magen Avram. The Bayat Chadash of Yoel Sirkish in his commentary on the Tur doesn't mention it. The Beit Yosef, needless to say, doesn't mention it. I mean, it's Minhag Ashkenaz. You wouldn't expect the Sephardic sources to mention it necessarily. The Tur doesn't mention it. It's only mentioned by one of the minor commentaries on Shulchan Aruch, who for the most part took the other commentaries and he created a short version of what the Taz and the Magen Avraham say. and his name is Bayer Hativ. And I'm going to quote you what he says. The Bayer Hativ, really, it's like tucked into the middle of a conversation. There's a conversation about fasting on Erev Rosh Hashanah and how people should fast multiple days or one day. That's what this is about. And middle, like mamash, like in between the sentences, he says, by the way, Mishenichnas Elul, when Elul comes, Kishakotev Adam Igeres Lachavera, when you write a letter, Tzarech Lirmos, you have to allude in the beginning, Betchilato, Shemevakesh Olav L'Shana Tova, that he's asking for a good year. He's the only one of the commentators of Shulchan Aruch who mentions this. What in heaven is going on here? If this is a halacha, and not just a halacha, this is a halacha on steroids. Everybody does this. Everybody's wishing everybody a good year. Millions of cards are sold. It's a huge business. And it's not just people who don't really know anything about Judaism. The idea of Rosh Hashanah cards was sent out by Gedolei Yisrael. The Rebbe used to send Rosh Hashanah cards. Small cards with a little description, not pictures. There's a book about Rabbi Aryeh Levin, the Tzaddik of Yerushalayim. They have there printed a Rosh Hashanah greeting card he got from the Rebbe. Just a small letter in which the Rebbe writes, I wish you a good year. I'm guessing it's the only correspondence between the Rebbe and Rabbi Aryeh because there is no other correspondence that published. The Rebbe sent him a good year card, a good year letter. Well, if it's such an important thing and everybody's doing it, what, you think maybe the Shulchan Aruch would mention it? The Bayer Hativ tucks it into the folds of Siman Tov Kuf Pei Aleph, which is chapter 581, the first chapter of the laws of Rosh Hashanah, in Sifkat and Yud in the subsection 10. It's literally tucked into the folds of other halachas. It is not quoted from anywhere other than Rabbi Yaakov Moen himself. Before the Bayer Hativ, there is halachas that were written in the Siddur by Rabbeinu Yaakov Emden. Somebody told me today that the Siddur Beis Yaakov that I have is not necessarily written by his hand, all of it. This is a later version of it, and it was somewhat changed or augmented. I don't know if that's true. I didn't have time to research it. But at any rate, he has halachas here. And in the halachas of Dinei Chodesh Elul, and the laws of Elul. So immediately, he says, almost at the beginning, and now I will quote, Kishakotev lechavero igeret shalom. When you write a letter of friendship to another, and he doesn't say anything, he does not use the words of Maharil or Maharash, he doesn't say Mishenichnas Elul. He says, Merosh Chodesh ad Yom Kippurim. For 40 days, this is the halacha, he says. For these 40 days, if you're writing a letter, Yirmez le betchila or besof. You should allude in the beginning or in the end. Shema tirolav, that he's praying for him. So he changes the verbiage. He doesn't use the word shemevakesh. He doesn't say he's asking. He uses a more refined or sophisticated word for heartfelt prayer, passionate prayer. And the interesting thing is that he doesn't begin by saying Mishenichnas Elul. He starts off immediately by telling you the matter of fact when a person is writing a letter. And he says, from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur. He doesn't say in the beginning. He says the beginning or the end. So he's changing from the words of the Maharil, written in Maharil. And he says, what is he praying for? What is he pleading for? Sheyizke b'yemei hadin, that he should be meritorious in the days of judgment, haba'im letova, that are coming, they should be for good. Lihiyot nichtav v'nichtam b'sefer chaim toven, that he be written and inscribed in the book of life. So we need to understand, I think, why Rabbi Yaakov Emden changed the details. He doesn't say from when Elul arrives, he talks about Elul and Yom Kippur. He doesn't say in the beginning, he says beginning or the end. And most interestingly, he doesn't use the word tzarach. He doesn't say you have to. He just says, kishakotev. When you're writing, yirmaz, you should allude. But again, he did stick to the idea of alluding, not saying it openly or overtly. Why? Gets even more interesting. In the Sefer, which is called, well, I guess we'll go first here. I'm not sure what was written first or second, but somewhere around the same time, we have, a little bit later, for sure after Yaakov Emden, we have the Eliyahu Rabbah, which is a commentary that's written on the codes of Rabbi Mordechai Yafai de Lavush. So in the commentary on those codes, he uses the exact verbiage of the Maharil. He says, Mishenichnas Elul, from when Elul arrives, Kisha kotev adam igeret lechavero. When you're writing a letter to your friend, he doesn't use the word friendship, he just says writing a letter. It seems like any kind of letter. Tzarech lirmos, you have to allude bitchilato in the beginning, shemevakesh alav l'shana tova, that he's asking for a good year. So here, he's a stickler to beginning. Yaakov Emden says beginning or the end. The Mate Ephraim, we spoke about at great length last time, Rabbi Ephraim Zalman Margolis, who wrote major codes on different portions of the Shulchan Aruch. He is the most voluminous collection of from the postmodern era of Elul customs. And he writes, and I quote now, in Siman Tov Kuf Pei Aleph, chapter 581, which is the same system as the Shulchan Aruch, in Seif Tes, in chapter 9, subchapter 9, he says, No hagin, it is customary. Doesn't say tzrichim, doesn't say you have to. He doesn't say kisha kotev. He begins with the words no hagin. He says it is customary. Shekisha kotev adam lachavero, that when a person writes a letter to his friend, or we get at Shlomim, he emphasizes the letter of friendship, but he uses the verbiage not of Maharil, but of the Yaakov Emden, of the Yavitz. He says, Min Rosh Chodesh Elul ad Yom HaKippurim, from the beginning of the month of Elul all the way until the Day of Atonement, Romez lo bitchilato o besofo. He should allude in the beginning or the end. Shehu ma'atir olav. He's using the sophisticated, elegant language of the Yavitz, of Rabbi Yaakov Emden. He says he should plead. He should allude to the fact that he's pleading on his behalf. Sheyizke be mehadin, that he should be meritorious in the day of judgment. Haboyim l'tova, they should come for good. Lehiyot nichtav nechtam b'sefer chaim tovim. He should be written and sealed in the book of good life. So here, he doesn't say anything about you have to. He doesn't say yirmas. He says noagim. It's but customary. It's customary. So I'm asking myself, why is it just customary? Why isn't it a halacha like everything else? When he talks about blowing the shofar, he just says, Rosh Chodesh el ve'elach tokim b'chol yom. Rosh Chodesh el onward, we blow the shofar every day. So why does he say it's just customary? It's customary when you write a letter. But my dear friends, that's really all we got. That's all we got. It's basically the Maharil, and you have Rabbi Yaakov Emden who modifies it slightly. A slight change in the Mate Ephraim who calls it a minhag. Everything, everywhere else, it's either a quote from one of these sources. For example, the Kaf HaChaim, who was the chief rabbi of Baghdad, who brought all kinds of customs. We're talking now 19th century. He says, Misher nichnas elul, kishekotav adam igeret lachavero, tzarech limers b'hatchalato, shemavakesh alav l'shana tova tikasev v'sichasem. Basically a shortened version of the words of the Maharil. Straight Maharil. In the Sefer called Bina Le'itim, over there, he has a straight quote, and this is from Yaakov Emden. Kishekotav lachaver de'igeret shalom, reshchodesh el la'adar yom kippurim, yirmer les b'tchilasi oy basayif, hint the beginning or the end. Shematir alav, he's praying for him. Sheyizke b'medin, same exact language. And the source for the Bina Le'itim is Yavitz, Yaakov Emden. So this really has to be understood. Essentially, this notion has almost been written out of the Jewish codes. It's not in the Shulchan Aruch. It's not in any of the commentaries in the Shulchan Aruch. The Bayer Heitev only mentions it almost in passing. Now here we have various sources that allude to it in one way or the other. The commonality is you're always alluding. You're always just hinting, not saying it openly. And here is where suddenly we see a change. In the Kitzer Shulchan Aruch, the short code of Jewish law written by the great Hungarian rabbi Rabbi Shlomo Gransfield, now in 19th century. He says, Kishekotev adam igeret lachavero. When a person writes a letter, tzarech lirmos, he has to allude. Again, weiter, start at the hinting. Everybody's hinting, dropping hints all over the place. B'tchilato besofa, shehu mevakesh alav, that he asks for him. This is the language of the Maharil. He kind of uses Maharil and Yaakov Emden, drawing from each one. And he adds a very interesting word. umevarcho, and he blesses him. You hint that you're davening, but you bless him. You bless him, sheyizke b'yomim haboyim, that he should merit in the days to come, lehikatev or lehichatem b'sefer chaim tovim. So I ask you a simple question. Where did the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch get this word from? It's not a word difference. It's a difference. It's a big difference. Up until now, it was a big secret. We were hinting at things. And what were we hinting at? That we prayed for you. Nowhere does it say we're supposed to pray for you. But it says we're supposed to hint that we prayed for you. If you're writing a letter to somebody, you better have prayed, because you're supposed to be hinting, if you happen to be writing a letter, that, by the way, I've been thinking of you. I've been praying for you. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch changes the tone. He says, you hint and allude to him about your prayers, and you bless him. Wow. Where do you get that from? What changed? Why is he suddenly blessing him? And here's what's maybe so interesting in this whole milieu. In the Eitzim and Hagei Chabad, he brings down what all of the Rebbes did. And he says, we have letters from the Alter Rebbe, we have letters from the Mittler Rebbe, including a letter from the Alter Rebbe, which is just days before Rosh Hashanah, in the year Tov Kuf Ayin Aleph, which would be 1791. And he says the Alter Rebbe does not mention a word in the letters about blessing the people for a good year. The Alter Rebbe was a person who received thousands of letters of petitions, people asking him to pray on his behalf. He sent a letter and doesn't mention a word. The Mittler Rebbe, same thing, doesn't mention a word. He's praying for people. From the Tzemach Tzedek, there's two letters, in which we find in the beginning of a letter, he alluded to this. He said in one letter, Hashem Yisbarach Yetev Hakativa Vachatima, God should make the writing and inscription. He didn't say he's praying. He said God should make. It's a bracha. And between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, he once wrote, Yetev Hashem Hagmar Chatima. God should make it better. Now, once we get to the fourth Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek's younger son, the Rebbe Maharash, here we start to see more copious examples of this. Hashem Atayv Yetev Achsiva, God should make your inscription good. Hashem Atayv Yetev Achsiva V'Achasima B'Tzei Chlal Yisrael, and various other examples of this. From the Rebbe's great-grandfather, the eldest son of the Tzemach Tzedek, there is a letter, which is Saturday night, Daled Tishrei, and amongst the verbiage, there shows up the following: V'Hashem Yizbarach Yeh Be'ezram, God should be there for their aid. V'Yetev Ba'adam Achasima, He should make good for them the sealing and the Gemar Chasima Teva B'Chol Mili Demetev. And one of the other Tzemach Tzedek's children, two of the other ones, also similarly wrote things like this. Once we get to the Rebbe Rashab, we start to find various examples of this. It shows up in many places, and in flowery language. And the Frierdiker Rebbe, even more so. The Rebbe Rashab sometimes at the beginning of a letter, sometimes at the end. The Frierdiker Rebbe almost always at the end, and the Rebbe in almost everywhere, continuously wishing a kativa v'chatima tova everywhere. And interestingly, in certain occasions, the Rebbe mentioned that it's brought in Peilish Sfarim that you can wish somebody a ksiva v'chasima teva either from Chafav, from the 20th day of Av, which is 40 days before Rosh Hashanah, or even from the 15th day of Av. So clearly, it's not a halacha you have to do this, because if it was a halacha, the Alter Rebbe would do it. These were Jews who lived everything like exactly what it says in halacha. The Mittler Rebbe would do it. If they didn't do it, it's not a halacha. If the poskim, if the Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring it, if all the commentators of the Shulchan Aruch don't bring it, it's not a halacha. Okay, so it's not a halacha. What is it? What is it? And it seems very precise. You should write it in the beginning. And the next says, no, write it in the beginning or the end. But allude. Don't write it. Allude to it. Speak about it. It should be understood that you're actually praying on somebody's behalf. What's going on over here? That's all my questions. So, I think this is the pshat. But before I tell you what the pshat is, I'm going to share with you two fascinating things from the Rebbe. The Rebbe, in a pastoral letter and he would write these letters several times a year, that was dated Chai Elul, the 18th day of Elul, just before Rosh Hashanah of 1984. The Rebbe said, and I quote him in the Yiddish, this letter was written in Yiddish, is doch jetzt avade de passende Zeit. Now is certainly the appropriate time. Zu wünschen jede einem, to wish everyone, und einem b'sech klal Yisrael, to wish everyone amongst the plurality of the Jewish people, a shana tova o masuka, a happy and a sweet year, begashmius and beruchnius, materially and spiritually, gam yochad, together. Nusach, an expression which is in minhag Yisrael and fila erter, welche is kol kol abrachas, when you say to somebody shana tova o masuka, a happy and sweet year, materially and spiritually, includes everything. Now is the appropriate time to do this. Who says? Where did that come from? So the Rebbe says, what do you mean? Look in the Mate Ephraim, who brings down from the Mariel. And over there you'll see that if a person is writing to a letter to somebody, he should allude that he's davening for him. That's not what the Rebbe just said. The Rebbe wrote in the letter, now is the appropriate time to wünschen. To wünschen means to wish, to extend good wishes. Mate Ephraim didn't write that. Mate Ephraim ultimately is talking about it. He doesn't write you should wish good wishes. Mate Ephraim says you should allude to the fact that you're davening. It doesn't say wish good wishes. How did the Rebbe get to that? And he gives a source for it. But the source doesn't say it. And amazingly, in 1988, before Rosh Hashanah, in Parshas Re'eh, the Rebbe spoke, it was a Sicha, and not Shabbos, and later it was committed to writing, and the Rebbe edited it. So I'm reading to you from an edited transcript. Towards the end of the Farbrengen, the Rebbe said, and I'll quote it, it's written and edited in Hebrew. V'kan hamakom la'orer u'lezaros. This is the place to kind of wake people up, to stir people, and to encourage people. Al odot inyonim hamiyuchodim shel ma'aseh b'poel, with regard to things that are relevant on a practical level. In addition to everything he said before, he says, hashayachim, which are connected to the month of Elul. What did the Rebbe talks about? Two things. The first thing, Aleph, lehishtadel, we should make every effort, levorech, to bless, and the Rebbe adds in the parentheses, ulehitborech. We should bless, make an effort to bless, and make an effort to be blessed. Ish et re'ehu. Each person, each man, should bless his friend, his peer. V'isha, and each woman, et re'uta, her neighbor. And the Rebbe adds in parentheses, this is not only for majors, for minors too. V'chein ataf, also with small children. Yeled l'chavero, little boy to wish his little boys, his little friends. V'yalda, and a little girl should l'chaverta, should wish her little friends, the little girls. L'kol echad v'yechad, to each and every one, bepratiyut, in detail. U'leklal Yisrael, and to the plurality of the nation of Israel, bebirchas kativa v'chatima tova l'shana tova mutuka. The Rebbe just wrote here that we should make an effort to bless everybody and to get blessed by everybody. And then he says, Hein balpeh, this could be done verbally could be a telephone call. Panim el panim, face to face. Ve'hein bichtav, and you can do it in writing also. So, text messaging. But that meant writing literally. Kimuva ba'achroinim, as is quoted in Achroinim, and the source is the Mate Ephraim. And here he quotes the Mate Ephraim. And he says, after he quotes the Mate Ephraim, which says nothing about blessing anybody else, it says about hinting that he's davening for somebody else. The Rebbe goes on to say, Asher birchato shall ish Yisrael, the blessing of a person amongst the Jewish people, ubefrat be'et ratzon, especially at a time of divine grace, which is the month of El, Chodesh HaRachamim, the month of mercy and grace. Kisha Melech Besada, which, as we explain, the Alter Rebbe explains in Likutei Torah, means that the God is available like a king who visits the people in the field. Umar panim sheichikas lekulam, he shows this beaming countenance and smiles to everybody and is welcoming to everybody. And as the metaphor goes in Likutei Torah, umemale bakashosei, and he fulfills their will, their desires. All of this is ma'isifa b'berchasish la'kadosh baruch hu. This all adds to God's blessing. L'malei mishalasem shekol echad miYisrael, that God should fulfill the will of each and every single one. B'cholam etztarech lem, and everything they need. B'gashmis u'beruchnis gam yachad. So the Rebbe says we should bless each other, and when we'll bless each other, because it's a powerful month, the blessings will be effective, and they will bring God's blessings to everybody. Where did this come from? If the Rebbe said, I want to tell you something new. It's a brand new, a new idea I had, that this is a powerful time. Because it's a powerful time, we should bless each other. The Rebbe doesn't say that. He says, this idea is quoted. He quotes the Mat Ephraim. But the Mat Ephraim doesn't say that. The Mat Ephraim is essentially quoting the Yavitz, who quotes the Maril, who says, Kesha Kotev, when you're writing a letter, then you should allude to the fact that you were thinking of somebody. What happened there? How did he make this jump? Very fascinatingly, the verbiage that the Rebbe uses, Ish Esrei Ehu. Where does that come from? Ish Esrei Ehu. Scripture. Specific scripture. It doesn't just say, Shavarech Echad et Hasheni, one should bless the other. He says, Ish Esrei Ehu. And then he puts it in the feminine tense, Isha et Ruta. And then the Taf. Why does he use that biblical expression? So I actually think that this is the key to unlocking the mystery. It's well known that the month of Elul has many, many different messages encoded into its name. Even the name, in acronym form. So the most famous of all the different acronyms which comprise the word Elul, Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed, is the pasuk from Shir Hashirim, from the Song of Songs, Ani l'dodi v'dodi li. I am to my beloved is to me. What is this about? Rashi Tevis Elul, the Alter Rebbe says, this is about Yud Gimel Midas Rachman, a time of grace. It's a time of grace, where God's available. Ani l'dodi, I can reach out to my beloved, and if I'll reach out to my beloved appropriately, my beloved's available. It's waiting for me to reach out to him. I'll reach out. I'll make the overture. Dodi li, God will reach out back to me. He'll embrace me. And that's the high holidays that follow. Okay? So what does Ani l'dodi mean? It means heartfelt prayer. It means salichot, like the Sephardic Jews are saying. It means listening to the shofar because it awakens us, it stirs us. There's another scriptural expression of Elul. Et levavcha ve'et levav. Your heart and the heart of. The pasuk says that God will circumcise, if you will, or purify, or cleanse, or remove the covering of your heart and the heart of your progeny. So it says et levavcha ve'et levav. Your heart and the heart of. That's said to be an allusion to Elul. What does it represent? Represents expression of the heart, a heartfelt expression, a passionate, fervor-filled relationship with God. Tshuva, to return to God. It means tefillah. It means prayer. It means a person should be more spiritual, a person should be elevated during the month of Elul. And then we have an allusion to the notion that the month of Elul is a time where we should be studying Torah more assiduously. There's a pasuk that speaks about the sanctuary cities of the Bible, not to be confused with modern narrations, where people who committed an accidental murder would have to go, separate themselves from the family, interrupt the orbit, the ebb and flow of life, interrupt their own orbits, live in a different place, and this would serve as an atonement. And it's called the Ir Miklat. So it says, Ina liyadei v'samti lach. That's the scriptural expression. And it spells Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed Elul, and it says Divrei Torah Kolten, that the words of Torah provide refuge. A person did terrible sins, he brought about damage in this world, he feels guilty, doesn't know what to do, now relax. Immerse yourself in Torah study. So what should we be doing in the month of Elul? supposed to add in our prayers. We're supposed to be doing tshuva. We're supposed to be stirring our conscience. We're supposed to be coming closer to God. We're supposed to be studying more Torah. And then there's a curious kind of other acronym. And that's the acronym of Ish l're'ehu u'matanot le'evyonim. It's a phrase from the book or scroll of Esther, and it describes mishloach manot, the packages of food that we exchange on Purim, and the gifts to the poor that we give. And the word is Ish l're'ehu. That's the word, Ish l're'ehu u'matanot le'evyonim. And that alludes to Elul. So what does that mean? What does that have to do with Elul? That's Purim. So we say, no, it means to give tzedakah. So people should add tzedakah during the month of Elul. Ask you like a silly little question. Ish l're'ehu has nothing to do with tzedakah. Ish l're'ehu is about matanot le'evyonim. It's not matanot le'evyonim. Matanot le'evyonim is tzedakah. Elul is ish l're'ehu matanot le'evyonim. It's one reaching out to his friend and the concept of giving tzedakah. And what does tzedakah have to do with Elul? We give tzedakah all the time. Elul is a time for heightened spirituality. Elul is a time for heightened God consciousness. Elul is a time to refocus and recalibrate. Elul is a time to wake up from the slumber of life and ask yourself real questions like, what am I doing here? What is the purpose of life? Why did God create the cosmos and place me at this time in history? What is this all about? Do I know what I'm doing, what I'm supposed to do? Am I fulfilling my destiny and my mission? Do I utilize my waking hours appropriately? Is my schedule focused and functional? Could I be doing much more of good things? Could I be of more benefit to others? Could I be a better spouse? Could I be a better parent? Could I be a better grandparent? There's the questions supposed to ask during Elul. How do I improve my relationship with God? So it's not like an Elul tzedakah. Why tzedakah? Okay, so you always give tzedakah. Okay, fine, so always give tzedakah. Like, really, Hasidish Yom Tovim are always connected to tzedakah. The Rebbe just make a magbis, like an appeal. Whenever we have a Hasidish Yom, okay, everybody should give tzedakah. And the acronym does not only speak about tzedakah. The acronym speaks about the idea of gifts of food. So should we be giving gifts of food to each other? It's a Purim thing. So what does it mean? What does it mean when we have this acronym that says Ish l're'ehu matanot le'evyonim? And just to make it even more interesting, I'll quote to you a Ritva, Chedush HaRitva, which I quoted months ago in another class when we talked about Purim actually. The Ritva says that you should know that even the matanot le'evyonim, it says you give to anybody. Ein medaktikim bedavar. We do not make some precise exact reckoning, a precise accounting, who is poor, who isn't poor. It's not like that on Purim. On Purim he says, Nosnim l'chol adam sheyova v'yitba. On Purim if somebody asks to get. Say he's not poor. Okay, so he's not poor. So I gave him money. It's called Purim guilt. Purim people give. She'ein yom ze midin tzedakah bilvad. The Ritva says that the tzedakah of Purim is actually not just tzedakah. Ela midin simcha umanot. It's actually not divorced from mishloach manot. Mishloach manot has to be food, yes, food that's edible. But it's the same kind of halacha. The money that's being given, if you give money, you didn't fulfill the mitzvah of mishloach manot, and if you only gave mishloach manot, maybe you did or maybe you didn't fulfill the mitzvah of matanot le'evyonim. If you gave food to a poor person, I guess you did. The Paskim speak about that. But the Ritva says that the halacha of tzedakah on Purim is not a simple halacha of tzedakah. It's not only if somebody needs. It means on Purim we give. We give to generate joy. We give to generate a sense of fraternity and brotherhood. That's why we give on Purim. Purim is not about tzedakah per se. A yid has to give tzedakah every single day. The matanot le'evyonim that were designed by our sages to celebrate Purim were not simply a halacha of tzedakah, says the Ritva. So I'm telling you in 1 second. You're telling me stories that Elul is tzedakah because it says Ish l're'ehu matanot le'evyonim. First of all, Ish l're'ehu has nothing to do with tzedakah. Second of all, the Ritva is telling me that even matanot le'evyonim is not really a din of tzedakah. So what's the pshat? So what are we supposed to do in Elul? So my dear friends, I would like to tell you something which seems novel, but it really isn't. You know what we should be doing during the month of Elul? in addition to working on reconciling our relationships with God, we should be working on reconciling our relationships with each other. We should have a greater sense of unity and cohesion because we need God's blessings. And God's blessings come, as we say proverbially, Barcheinu Avinu. When does God bless us? Kulanu ke'echad. When we're all as one. There's an amazing vert of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe says in Likutei Torah that this parsha of Nitzavim is always read on the Shabbat prior to Rosh Hashanah. Why is this? Sometimes Nitzavim Vayelech, sometimes Nitzavim alone, but it's always read before. And the Alter Rebbe goes on to explain that's because on the Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah, we don't bless the new moon. Why? Because we're confusing or confounding the Satan. If that makes no sense to you, come back next week for part 4. Okay. But he says, the blessing, God blesses, the Baal Shem Tov said, God blesses the Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah. And with the power of God's blessing, we bless the new month, each of the Shabbatot Mavarchim, with the blessing, the power of God's blessing. And what's God's blessing? God's blessing is Atem Nitzavim Hayom. Hayom alludes also to Rosh Hashanah, to the Day of Judgment. And the idea, as the Alter Rebbe explains in the Likutei Torah, is Nitzavim Hayom represents 10 different levels, 10 different prototypes of Jewish people. From Roshechem, Shiftechem, from people who are involved in the most august and dignified of leadership, to people whose job is sanitation and energy. The people who take care of water and chop wood. All the levels. Everybody has to come together. And in that famous Maimer, the Alter Rebbe says, Kulchem together, la'achadim ke'echad. He says there's one metaphor of unity of the Jewish people, that we all represent the whole body. And it's not a secret that if there's a part of the body where there's malaise or illness, invariably it will spread to other parts of the body. Because the blood courses through the entirety of the body. If there's infection in one part of the body, the entire body is in danger. And furthermore, when you need that part of the body, it becomes the most important part. And you got to talk your way out of a situation. You can have the best sense of smell, you can have the sharpest ears, you can have the fastest legs, you can have the strongest biceps, and you can have a fantastic heart and a great digestive system. You could even be brilliant. You could see for 2 miles. But if you can't talk your way out of a situation, when you need to talk your way out of the situation, you're finished. You're finished. And when there's a fire coming, you can't talk to the fire. You got to run as fast as you can. And if there's somebody there who's muscling you down, you need your biceps. You're not going to be able to outsmart him when he has you in a headlock. That's not a time for negotiations. So in every situation, you need a different part of your body. There's a time when your eyes are most important, and how many ears are most important. God forbid, if a car will be hitting somebody and somebody hit the horn and he has no ears, he'll be in big trouble. That could be the difference in life and death. So every part of the body has a role to play. The Alter Rebbe says that's not good enough. It's not good enough. Because yes, the legs give mobility and the head processes information and gives direction. But he said there really is a difference. There is more prominent parts of the body, less prominent. You can live without legs, you can't live without a head. The Alter Rebbe says real achdos is a circle. Because in a circle, there is no beginning and there is no end. So Rosh Hashanah begins the Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah with Nitzavim, and he said Nitzavim kulchem ke'echad means that God gives us a circular blessing. We all together comprise a circle. There's a level at which Neshamas Yisrael are all dots in a massive circle, all forming the circle together. And from that perspective, we're all one. That's the round bowl, if you will, that our blessings come into. And we all need to be there. And nobody is more or less important to make the circle. There is no head of the table. And the Alter Rebbe says that's the whole idea of Nitzavim. And the Rebbe explained many times that in order for there to be this concept on Rosh Hashanah, that it has to first be articulated, spelled out, proclaimed, trumpeted from the Torah first. Like the Rebbe once explained, that it's brought down in Chassidus, the reason we say psukim, we say various verses along with the shofar blasts, the psukim of Malchias, Zichronot, and Shofrot, the psukim, the verses which represent majesty or kingship, the verses which represent the concept of shofar blasts and of memory. It's as if that makes the shofar powerful. It gives it a sense of wherewithal It's what makes the shofar meaningful, because everything comes from the Torah. So the Rebbe says for Rosh Hashanah to be meaningful, the Torah has to say, Atem nitzavim hayom, that you're all standing tall, that you're all together. In other words, what's the best preparation for Rosh Hashanah? Achdus. What's the climax of the high holidays? Simchas Torah. And what do we do on Simchas Torah? We dance in a circle. In a circle that has no beginning, it has no end. And the Torah is closed, so whether you're a big scholar or not a scholar, it doesn't make a difference. It's not about studying Torah, it's about dancing and rejoicing with the Torah. And the rejoicing takes place in circular fashion. In other words, if you really think about it, if we are to merit, and surely we will merit, a wonderful new year that's filled with Hashem's blessings, what's the most logical thing that we should be able to do in order to get Hashem's blessings for this new year? We should repair our relationship with God, and we should get it together. Now, if you make a rule, everybody must write a letter now to his friend and tell him I love you, how sincere will that be? I remember one of my children sent us home a letter from camp, and the letter said this: they're making me write a letter, so I'm writing a letter. Good Shabbos. That was the letter. It was not exactly so profound or touching. He didn't tell us anything about camp. He just wrote us, I'm in camp. They make him write a letter. Here's your letter. You can't schedule a headache. How are you going to schedule good feelings? If you write to somebody, by the way, I'm supposed to tell you now that I'm praying for you. That's not going to mean anything to anybody. That's not going to foster good feelings. Do you know that once upon a time, the month of Elul, people were deathly terrified of the day of judgment that was coming? Until Chassidus brought this joy into Elul. You know, people didn't used to get married in the month of Elul. People quaked in their boots. If you know that your friend is filled with anxiety and always thinking about his Yom HaDin is coming, okay, you're a 14th century Ashkenazic Jew, who knows what the next year is going to bring? 5 years ago there was a pogrom. Who knows what's coming in 10 years from now? Who knows what's coming this year? The people had anxiety. And you want to make somebody feel better. What could you do? You could allude to him. By the way, I'm thinking of you. I'm not just thinking. I'm praying. I'm thinking of you in prayer. So that's nice of you. Wow, the person reads the letter. Look at this, he says. He calls it, look at this, he's thinking of me in prayer. So what does it do? Makes you feel good. They didn't legislate and say, okay, now everybody write a letter. It's not going to work. So they said, if you're writing a letter, it's a good idea to say, I'm thinking of you. You should do this. Mariel did it. People did it. They made a point of saying they were thinking about each other. The poskim understood this. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring it. The Ramah doesn't bring it. It's not a halacha. It's common sense. You don't have to be told that you should be a mensch. You don't have to be told that at a time when there's anxiety that you should tell somebody you're thinking of them. The Bar Hativ tucks it in. He says, by the way, it's what you're supposed to do now. It's so compelling that not one of the major commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, not one of them, not the Magen Avraham, not the Taz, not the Pischei Teshuva, I mean none of them. Only, not the Shari Teshuva, only the Bar Hativ. Not the Machzah Shekel, not Levush Yisrod, not the Prima Godim, not the Birur Hagra, none of them. The Mishnah Brura doesn't bring it. The Aruch HaShulchan doesn't bring it. We can't know what the Alter Rebbe would have done or what he did because that part of Shulchan Aruch was lost, unfortunately. So the Matei Ephraim understood. He understood that this is not exactly a halacha. The Matei Ephraim keenly understood that if it's brought out in Maharil, it says tzarech, you have to do this. And he noticed that Rabbi Yaakov Emden didn't write tzarech anymore. Yaakov didn't write tzarech. Yaakov Emden wrote kishe yichteiv, kishe kosev, pardon me. Kishe kosev igros lechavero. So the Matei Ephraim understood this is not a halacha. He understood it's a minhag, it's a custom. He added the word nohagen. It's nohagen. And maybe in the etiquette of Germany, of Neustadt, where Reb Shalom was from, or where Reb Yaakov Mulin was from, maybe the etiquette there was, if you're thinking of somebody, the right thing was tell them right in the beginning, I've been thinking of you. And then write your letter. And maybe by the time Reb Yaakov Emden, who did maybe societal mores changed a little. Maybe it didn't have to be in the beginning. It could be as an afterthought. Maybe the end doesn't seem like an afterthought. Maybe when you conclude a letter that way, he said, that's not an afterthought. I conclude, I'm thinking about you. So the Matei Ephraim quotes that. He says, beginning, the end. Don't make it the letter. You're not writing a letter about this. He says it's either a little preamble or it's a closing. But that's when it will be understood or taken sincerely. If all of a sudden I write you a whole letter because I was told to write a letter, that's not sincere. You have your kids fight, you say, okay, now you have to apologize. Okay, I apologize. No, you don't. Of course I don't. You made me apologize. That's not going to foster good feelings. That's not going to nurture any closeness. So the Mater Ephraim says, Noyagin. He says, Noyagin. Now think about this, my friends. Think about what, if this is the spirit of this minhag, it's about togetherness. So the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch understood, maybe things had changed. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch was a Hasidic Yid, lived in the time of Hasidus already. Blessings were a way of life. People used to bless each other. They went to tzaddikim for blessings. The Baal Shem Tov said that everybody could bless. Rebbe Gransfeld understood that if you bless somebody, it's meaningful. It's meaningful. He added the word Yirmez, Tzarech Lirmez, and he says, Mevarchei. Mevarchei. In the 19th century, people appreciated a blessing. Thank you for blessing me. And the Rebbe understood. The Rebbe, this was really like I was talking to one of my colleagues today. He said this was the Rebbe's kav. The Rebbe was the one who focused almost to a point of obsession on Avas Yisrael, on every single Jew being important. Not to make labels. The Baal Shem Tov made every Jew important. The Rebbe made every mitzvah of every Jew important. But he's not religious. He puts on tefillin once. He put up a mezuzah. She lit Shabbat candles once. What will you gain? That was what he's talking about. Every single mitzvah is a moment in eternity. For that moment, this neshama was on fire. And it's just as important as anybody else's mitzvah. The Baal Shem Tov said every Jew is an only child of God. The Rebbe said, and because of that, everybody's act is a moment of eternity of supreme importance. And no mitzvah can be weighed or made more important than the other because, well, I'm frum. The Rebbe's emphasis is always Avas Yisrael. The Rebbe wanted us to be together. The Rebbe wanted people to get past themselves. So, how did the Rebbe understand this concept? The Rebbe said, "Das ist die passende Zeit zu wünschen jeden einem." This is the time to wish each other, because it brings good feelings. And you know what, my friends? The Jewish people understood this. In the 1880s or 1890, when the first postcard showed up in Europe, it took off like wildfire. There was a guy named Chaim Goldberg. I mean, a million Chaim Goldbergs, but this was a famous Chaim Goldberg. He made these amazing cards, and tragically for him, he ended up stuck with the Nazis in Theresienstadt. They forced him to do all kinds of art for them, and then they killed him. Beautiful cards, fascinating cards. You Google some of these cards. Families that were in America and families in Europe reaching out to each other. You know, the Polish eagle and the American eagle, and where you have these people like one phone, somebody calling from one side of the ocean. You know, a young man and a young woman separately. You know, like a bride and groom wishing each other well as we're going to be reunited soon. All these beautiful little cards. But it wasn't. The cards were cards. The Jewish people understood it was a time of good feelings. Somebody said to me, "It's not a Jewish idea." It's not a Jewish idea. He says, it's a Christian thing. It's from New Year's cards. My dear friends, it's the other way around. It's the other way around. We were sending letters and fostering good feelings before our New Year, before the Christians were doing it. Before there was greeting cards in December, there were greeting cards in Elul. In fact, it's documented that in the 15th century, before there was any greeting cards in December, there were no cards. They were writing fancy letters. People purchased fancy stationery, and they wrote beautiful letters. They took the words of Marie Segel to the next level. They understood. If you're writing something, you have to write. They understood this is about nurturing togetherness. And it made a wonderful feeling. Till about 10 years ago, everybody used to get all kinds of Rosh Hashanah cards. And it was like a thing. They didn't send me a Rosh Hashanah card this year. How come they didn't send me a Rosh Hashanah card? People would send pictures of the family. In the old days, before there was Facebook, and everybody sent every picture of everybody's lunch had to be posted every 20 minutes. People lived in a different place. A short 30 years ago, to get a picture, 20 years ago, you had to send an actual picture. People would make pictures of the family. They would send pictures of the family to one another. It was a huge business. From 1880 to 1990, 1 billion cards, they said, were sold. But people sent, the Rebbe sent a letter to Rabbi 11, wishing him a happy new year, L'shana Tova U'Mesuka. So the Rebbe understood, the Jewish people understood this. This is the passing Zeit zu wünschen. This is the time to wish everybody L'shana Tova U'Mesuka. It's a nusach of Minig Yisrael. It includes all the blessings. And the Rebbe brings down, look at the Mater Ephraim, you'll see. It's very clear. It brings it down over there. Mario brings it down over there. When you write a letter, you make such a wish. In 1988, in Tov Shem Ches, the Rebbe spoke so much about simcha and about togetherness. The Rebbe says that you should make an effort to be together. And this was really what tipped me off. The Rebbe writes, levarech, to bless, ulehizbarech, to be blessed. Because that's a good feeling to be blessed also. And the Rebbe writes, ish esrei ehu. This is the language. Elul is ish l're'ehu matanos l'vyonim. Ish esrei ehu. That's the meaning of the tzedakah of Elul. It's not just give an extra coin in the tzedakah box, which is very important. By the way, the second thing that Rebbe says, it says in Achreinim, that you should check your tefillin. You should check your mezuzahs. Make sure all the mezuzahs are up. Make sure the ones you have are kosher. Make sure the tefillin are right. These are the two things that Rebbe says we're supposed to do in Elul. Besides all the things, fervor and feeling and passion, this is a do thing. Make a point of reaching out to somebody who you haven't spoken to in a while and say, Shalom Aleichem, I want to wish you Shana Tova. You should be written in the book of life. You and your family should have brachas this year. You should have good things. Imagine if everybody would make 10 phone calls. 10 phone calls they haven't made in months. To people they don't usually speak to. And you just want to give good wishes. I'm not talking about blind copying 60 million text messages that fly around the world that mean nothing to anybody. Like the ridiculous blind copy text messages I get from people I don't even know on Erev Yom Kippur. If I offended you, please forgive me. What is that, a joke? Your phone asks my phone for forgiveness? What does that mean? I'm like, it's ridiculous. It's beyond stupid. If you offended somebody, deal with it. If you have to ask somebody, if I offended you, could please forgive me? I don't know what that means even. What do you mean, if I offended you? If you think you offended somebody, deal with it. If you need to do things in a mass way, just forgive everybody. If I offended you. To send out post on Facebook, I wish you all a Happy New Year. By the way, it's not a bad thing either, okay? At least you be positive things there. With all the negativity out there, at least you be positive things. The point is to make a point of reaching out to another, to get blessings. And some people don't know how to take blessings. Take a blessing for somebody too. Levarich ulehizbarech, in a way of modesty, in a way which it's tznius. The isha esrei isha esrei usa. I'm not talking about mingling of genders, chas v'shalom. We're not talking about transcending tznius. We're talking about in a modest and appropriate way to have friendships, proper relationships. To be Jewish people should be united. And the Rebbe says that this is alluded to in Achreinim when he says Neigim Shekaisev, because when the Rebbe looks in the Mata Ephraim, the Mariel, that's what he sees there. Because they don't look at the technicality. He looked at the message. The message is Yirmaz, you allude. Why? Because if you make it a formal thing, then... So he said allude to it. It should be sincere. And the point for us then is, don't do it in a perfunctory manner. Don't do robocalls. don't mass produce voice notes. It means to make an effort to reach out. And when you didn't reach out, and when you didn't bless each other, then this creates a sense of cohesion and oneness that is the most powerful agency, the most powerful thing that we can do to be able to receive Hashem's blessings in the new year, Mitzvah Hashem, that will come, L'Toiva, L'Vracha. Hopefully this will be Shnas Peduseinu, the year of our redemption, so the coming of Mashiach, B'mheira, will be Ameinu, Amen.